Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the pregame cheat sheet. We are live from the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia, where the Kansas City Chiefs will be taking on the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday Night Football on NBC. Myself, along with Steve Walton, welcome you to our show. Steve, your initial thoughts on tonight's matchup?
Man, look, it's a lot of excitement here in Atlanta. I mean, you got the nice Mercedes-Benz. I'll call them the dome, but they have the roof open right now. There's a lot of Chiefs fans down here just walking into the stadium. You saw a lot of red. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a black and red with the Falcons, but you saw a lot of Chiefs, Chiefs jerseys.
Yeah, I mean, we're surrounded by Chiefs Kingdom all over the place. Steve, the Chiefs coming to this matchup 2-0, coming off of last week's win over the Cincinnati Bengals. The Falcons, who many people thought might have been 0-2 coming into this game, won on the last minute drive against the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday Night Football. So they're on short rest as they take on the Chiefs in tonight's matchup.
But I think that you mentioned short rest, but I feel like they don't really care about that, and they're not even thinking about that just because of how that last drive worked out for them. Yeah. We were talking on the sideline just a little bit ago how that might have been Kirk Cousins' best drive within the past few years, right? Yeah. So I think they're riding high on the way that they were able to end that game.
I think between this game and the Monday night game that they had against the 49ers last year, I think, I think he has tried to diminish the myth that he can't play well in prime time, which he's done in his last two games that he's been able to play.
And not only that, he's been trying to diminish the fact that people were thinking, he's not going to be mobile because of the Achilles. And I feel like he said, I'm going to get up under center, I'm going to work shotgun, and we're going to figure it out. And I feel like he's gotten a lot more comfortable.
A lot to unpack in tonight's game. Again, the teams will be kicking off in just a little under an hour. Again, on NBC, if you're watching at home locally, it's Channel 41, KSHC. Steve, this past week, the biggest news for Kansas City, two things. They lost running back Isaiah Pacheco for about 2 months, about 6 to 8 weeks due to a broken fibula. But in the meantime, they added former Kansas City Chiefs running back Kareem Hunt, who was out to the practice squad, but the injury looks like they're getting him towards being ready to go next weekend in Los Angeles.
Kareem didn't have any preseason, any training camp, so I feel like getting him acclimated instead of throwing him in there to the Wolves. I mean, Kareem's a pro. He's not a rookie, not even a second-year player. I mean, he's been in the league a few years, right? So I think being a gamer, you should be able to go out there. But football's a little different. I mean, because when you think about it, he has to get acclimated to becoming being hit. I mean, we talk to the guys all the time preseason, like you want to take that first hit.
Get it out the way so your body can get adjusted.
Of course. And like you said, his body has to be adjusted. I feel like, and I want to ask you, do you think he would be able to play today if they said, all right, Kareem, we need you to give us something?
Here's the thing. He would want to play. Whether his body allows him to do so. So, I mean, trust me, when he got signed, you saw him in practice, he's ready to go in his mind mentally. But, again, the coaches know you got to get a ramp up because it would be like saying Isaiah Pacheco, yes, they're giving him an 8-week timetable, but even then, he still has to ramp up to get back in the game since he would have been out of action for 2 months.
Yeah, I could agree with that. It's like us. We think we go out there and do something. Our mind is like, yeah, we can. But our body, that weekend warrior kicking in, you're like, Now,
look, we'll be here, up until kickoff, give or take. We want you to drop your score prediction in the comment section. Let us know what you think of how you think tonight's game is going to unfold as the Chiefs look to move to 3-0 in the division. And if they do so, Steve, there'll be one full game up on the Los Angeles Chargers, who lost earlier today to the I want to say Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers. And of course, the Raiders shockingly lost to the Carolina Panthers today in a blowout fashion. And of course, the Denver Broncos were victorious against Tampa Bay today. So before we look at the game, give me your quick thoughts on the other matchups that took place in the AFC.
I mean, the Chiefs are always the front runner, right? Teams are trying to keep up with them. But if you can give yourself that lead going into November, December, where you can sit back and kind of let things play out, right? And you don't have to worry about it because we've seen the Chiefs have to wait until the end of the season, right, to let things kick in. I mean, we saw the Super Bowl years where they start out slow. This year, they're starting out 2-0. This is kind of not uncharted territory, but it's kind of the quick start.
They undefeated in September. I think last year was the first time in Patrick's career that he lost, I think, the first week of the season.
Yeah. So, but the Super Bowl seasons, they started off slow.
Yeah. Looking at tonight's matchup, Steve, let's look at the Atlanta Falcons. Again, they come into today's game 1-1, led by quarterback Kirk Cousins, who was picked up in the offseason as a free agent. But a lot of the current talent that they have, they got wide receiver Drake London, the running back Bijan Robinson. I think he's going into his third year right now. Also got tight end Kyle Pitts, who, when he was drafted, a lot of people thought he was going to be, the new Travis Kelce, based off of what he was doing in college. So, just looking at this offense, what type of concerns would you see defensively for Kansas City?
I think
based off of what we've seen the first 2 weeks of the season.
I think the tight end. I mean, we saw the first couple weeks, we saw the tight ends be able to get off. And then you get the little, drop-off pass in the flat to the running back. We saw that being an issue. I think those two things is what we really need to be focused on, because Nick Bolton out in space. Now, don't get me wrong, I like Nick Bolton as a player. He's a great linebacker. But when he's out in space, he doesn't have that hip movement and to be able to get out and cover a tight end that he would need to. So I think, and the Chiefs have to understand that. Like, if you're going to put Nick Bolton out to where he has to cover, it's going to be a pretty long day. So I feel like you're going to see a lot of Justin Reed on Kyle Pitts, a lot of Shamari Connor on Kyle Pitts. So one person that we don't have to worry about is Trey McDuffie. Right? Like, Trey McDuffie has been that, I'm going to lock you down and you're not going to get it. We saw i.e. Jamar Chase last weat, where he's been able to get up and be physical. And a lot of talk that we haven't talked about is the fact that he's playing a lot more physical than he has in years past. I mean, we saw it with Tyreek Hill last year, but L'Jarius Sneed was that, that bruiser corner where he covered the top wide receiver. And we're seeing a lot from that from Trey McDuffie.
Another matchup to look forward to tonight is, again, to me, it's going to be Bijan Robinson, because he is technically a dual threat running back. We've seen games where, if you use him in the play action, I mean, he is able to line up outside. He is able to catch the ball in the flats and take it to the house. And of course, if you're Kirk Cousins, if you're the Falcons, again, we say it every week, and it's easier said than done. But you want to try to establish the run game and try to keep Patrick on the sideline as long as humanly possible. Try to have 13, 14 play drives or whatever, to where you hopefully get some points out of it. But but the biggest thing is you've got to keep Mahomes and his offense on the sideline if you're the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, and with a running back like Bijan Robinson, look, I got him on my fantasy draft. My fantasy team, but I feel like it's time to establish the run. Saying it is one thing, but them going out there and actually doing is another, and sticking to the game plan. Because we always see a lot of teams, they start out good, but then they deviate from it because, you got to try to keep up with Patrick Mahomes. So I don't know if that's offensively, if that's the head coach, or if that's the quarterback. So what would you think? Because, I mean, you look at teams like Lamar Jackson, the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar, and then you look at Joe Burrow, where guys are wanting to come out there and showcase, I'm just as good as Pat.
I think what you see a lot of times is teams get afraid, especially if Mahomes, let's say this, if the defense gets the stop or the defense gets a turnover and the team can come back and score right away, or if Mahomes gets the ball on offense and they can hit a quick strike and score right away and get that momentum. I think the opposing team, coaches, players, they get kind of rattled, and instead of sticking with the game plan, they feel like, well, now we got to match the tip for tip, because they feel like the people have the momentum if they turn back and score right away, not realizing that the defense just got off the field, so you can try to run a long drive and kind of wear them down some, which a lot of teams don't really think about like that.
I agree. That would definitely take the running back away. That run the other team's running game away. So
now, with tonight's matchup, again, if the Chiefs win, they're going to 3-0. The Falcons will fall to 1-2. But if the Falcons somehow upset the Chiefs matchup, both teams will be 2-1. Now, here in Atlanta, one of the things that they've done is the owner is I guess you could say he's putting himself in the ring of honor. So
putting himself, that's crazy.
Well, when you're on the team, I guess you can do that. So he'll be putting himself in the Hall of Fame halftime. Pregame, we've got local musical rapper T.I. is going to be performing his pregame. You didn't know that, did you?
I did not know that.
You did.
Wow, you read.
I pay attention to details. So now, but if you're watching the game, pregame, Samuel L. Jackson not only will be here at the game, but will also be narrating the opening in Sunday Night Football game. As you see the Chiefs coming out onto the field right now. sometimes you got to let their reaction get a listener for the audience to feel it. So, Steve, before we get back to this, we got a chance, just to take it in. Probably you heard the crowd reaction, your first impression.
There's a lot of Chiefs fans here, man. Like we talked about it earlier in the week and last week. There's a lot of opposing fans that are actually here, and we see it all the time. But when you actually get a city that the team doesn't go to all the time, and you see it in Vegas, you see it in Vegas, you see it in LA. We've seen it in different cities like that, Miami. But when you get a city like Atlanta that the team doesn't go to for once every 8 years, I mean, you're going to get a lot of fans to show up.
Yeah, it is funny how often you get back. Because now the last time the team actually played it was in preseason, Mahomes MVP year. And in that game, it was preseason, but Mahomes threw the longest pass in the air distance-wise in NFL history when he threw a 70-yard touchdown pass to Tyreek Hill.
Yep,
I mean, that was, again, and no player thrown a ball in the air as far as he has since then. So.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, and the other thing is, with that being, one thing we talk about all the time that we haven't seen is the big explosion, of this offense. What is the likelihood that we see it tonight against the Falcons?
You know what? I was thinking about that, and I know we talked a lot about earlier in the show, talked about Kareem Hunt. But these running backs, for it to be an explosive offense, these running backs have to establish themselves, right? Like, because one thing you don't want teams to do is sit back, play the pass, and allow you to run the ball and make you beat them with the run, which I think we're going to see that a lot today with the Atlanta Falcons. They're going to allow the Chiefs to, all right, we know you don't have 10 back there. We know you got Samaje Perine. We know you got a rookie and Carson Steele. All right, show us that you were able to run the ball.
I'm glad you went there because that's where I was going. With the absence, and I do want to excuse our audience if you hear a lot. The speakers are way above us, but it is blasting, and we're down on the field versus somewhere else in camera. So
this is the atmosphere you get when you're down here.
Hey, this I know this is what you all miss, and so we miss it as well. But see, I want to ask you, since Isaiah Pacheco is going to be out, how do you see Carson Steele stepping up to the plate and starting and what do you see Samaje Perine adding to the
I mean, we saw his one mistake. All running backs get one, right?
Yeah,
it was all the fumble. But if I'm going back and looking back in Chiefs history, we saw it with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We saw it with Isaiah Pacheco.
We saw it with Kareem Hunt.
So, I mean, that happens. And I think once you get that out of your system, now you can be able to play free. And the fact that I feel like Andy Reid has simplified the offense a little bit, which is kind of uncharacteristic for Andy Reid. I mean, he did it like last year because of the wide receiver issues. But I feel like he simplified a little bit so that he doesn't have to go out there and actually think a lot.
But in the absence of Isaiah Pacheco, what do the Chiefs lose, if anything, and what are they gaining with having Perine and Carson Steele in play?
I mean, 10 led them in touchdowns last year. So I mean, you're missing that physical running back, and then you're missing that. You're going to have him out there, right? Teams of fear the run.
It's just putting more pressure on Mahomes, though, with the wide receivers. And how much pressure? Because we haven't really talked about it, but Worthy had some issues last week.
Yeah.
Rasheed Rice, played his home game. Obviously, he was trying to get passes to Travis Kelce. It seemed like some stuff was being forced. What type of pressure offensively do we see the Chiefs being under in tonight's game?
I think it's on Mahomes. I think it's on the left side of that offensive line as well, because I feel like he's going to have to use his legs a lot more, which used to be the strength of Pat. Like him being able to scramble, get outside the pocket. We haven't really seen him do that the past. Like we didn't see him a lot from last year. And I don't know if it's because of the injuries that he's having. You think about the turf toe, you think about the knee, him using his legs. That I feel like is going to be where the most pressure is going to come from. The fact that Patrick has to get out there and be mobile. But that was his claim to fame. Where teams, they would just draw it out, where the Chiefs would just draw. It seemed like they were drawing stuff up in the dirt, and they played a backyard football. So I think that's what they need to get back to now. Granted, that's back when he said he didn't read defenses or know how to read defenses. Right. And so I think now he's going to have to use his arm. And that's where we're going to actually see how good these wide receivers are. But do you feel like that pressure going on Mahomes is something that they're going to be able to overcome just with these young guys in the wide receiver room?
Here's the thing. Good question that you asked. Yes, they're going to have to because Kareem isn't coming back, and not saying that he's the answer to savior, but that but we are where we are right now.
Yeah.
It is up to the wide receivers who were here last year. They have to step up. I mean, honestly, it shouldn't just fall on Rasheed Rice, and it shouldn't fall on like Xavier Worthy being the first time draft, Sky Moore. All these players have been here, and they played in the Super Bowl. So they need to. Obviously, you got Juju kind of needs to step up now. He's got a couple of weeks underneath him. I mean, and he's in shape because he was with the New England Patriots. So I expect a bigger contribution from him. But I think tonight's game somehow, some way, is going to fall on Patrick and Travis. I really think, especially on this opening drive and in the first quarter, I really think Patrick is going to either try to get him involved early or get him to the end zone.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know we're going to talk about our X factors later, but I'm going to give you mine early. It has to be Travis Kelce. I mean, you've got to be able to make sure that this defense recognizes that you're on the field. I mean, and I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, people can say, oh, well, that's Travis Kelce. Defense always know he's on the field. But he hasn't played like it. They haven't really had to. Teams have played him a lot differently, double teams and things like that. But they've got to understand that, hey, you're here, and we felt like with the explosiveness of Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown, we talked about him, preseason, where it was supposed to extend the career of Travis Kelce, right? So now they've got to figure out another guy to throw in there. Is it Justin Watson? Are they able to stretch a fit with him? I mean, we've seen Rasheed Rice. We've seen what Xavier Worthy can do.
I would say we also see some more Noah Green. I mean, you can't sign an extension like you did in the offseason. So I kind of expected to see a lot more Noah Gray involvement, but not to the detriment of Travis Kelce.
How much McCole do we see? Because he hasn't really been a factor. McCole, I mean, you still got Scott Moore.
He's utilizing him a lot for it seems like special teams. So.
And then a guy like Juju Smith-Schuster. Yeah. So, I mean, can Juju make his money today?
You got to make that money. Now, let me ask you this, because you mentioned earlier about the left tackle. Obviously, Kingsley Salvatore didn't play well last week. He got benched during the game.
Right.
Wanye Morris finished the game out. Wanye has to have to start in tonight's game.
Yeah.
How do you think that's going to work out for Kansas?
Look, Wanye wants to keep the starting job. I think he's going to get the best Wanye you can get. He understands, like, hey, I'm a veteran. I got to show that because he lost his job.
Yeah.
He really did. He lost it in training camp. He's got to show that he can play this position. Otherwise, if this team is going to go outside, you don't want to have to be demoted.
And look, here's what's crazy, because when you think about it, you look at the players that they're going to be up against. They've got. Matthew Judon, and they don't have like the names.
Judon.
They don't have like all the defensive linemen that they do. But you look at the teams that they're going to be playing coming up. Next week we're in Los Angeles. We're going to be taking on Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, and they're probably looking at chops. Seeing how the Chiefs, tackles, at least on the left side, have been looking. The week after that, the Chiefs come back home. Who do they face? Yeah. Cam Jordan and company, the New Orleans Saints. Yeah. So they're going to be looking. They're going to be looking at the tackle position, looking at track, and then they get a bye week to try to clean stuff up. Yeah. And then you go to San Francisco now. Will they be at full strength? Obviously, they'll have Nick Bosa out there and Fred Warner. So to be quite honest, they've got to get this left tackle situation taken. I know you and I talked last week about would they put a call into Donovan Smith to bring him back. I don't know if you're doing that. I mean, you kind of are where you are, but I don't know, man.
We talked about Noah Gray. You got to say a tight end over there. You got to figure out at least passing plays. You got to figure out, can Carson still block?
Yeah.
Right? And how good is he in pass pro? I mean, we've seen him in it a little bit, but I mean, Samaje P-Rod's going to have to be out there. I know that was the effect of Jerick McKinnon last year, the past few years. He's great in pass pro, and he can catch the ball.
Yeah.
So they've got. I think that's where the majority of their problems gonna come from, is just that left side of the offensive line. Like, what do you do?
Gotta get him out.
Yeah. At least as much as you can, and then Patrick has to. Patrick's
got to recognize it. And
get that ball out.
But here's the thing: if the Chiefs know it, they got to make sure that they call plays that don't really focus on being on the left side. At least he can have the potential. You kind of got to gear the play towards the other side, so his blind side is well protected with at least two players on there.
Sometimes the chips just fall how they fall.
I get that, but I mean, we are where we are at the moment.
Yeah.
So with that, they've got to be mindful of it in the play calling that they do. Darren Smith and Steve Walsh here with you, pregame cheat sheet live from the field here at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Atlanta Falcons in just under an hour. Steve, let's go on the defensive side of football. The Chiefs have played well. They've been able to hold their opponents under 27 points for, I think, 18, 19 games straight now. Obviously, last week, George Karlaftis and Chris Jones initially shared the sack, but they took the half sack away from Chris Jones.
You think Chris Jones should have got the half sack?
I mean, it didn't bother me. I had no money on it. But I do want to ask you this question. With that being said, Kirk Cousins is not a quarterback that you have to worry about being mobile. Mm-hmm. Would it be disappointing if the Chiefs, especially with the defensive line of Karlaftis Jones, if they don't have a big night in tonight's matchup?
Would it be disappointing? No, but I think.
Well, you got to remember, you don't have a quarterback that's going to be out scrambling or whatever. So, I mean, so he's going to be in the pocket. So, all you got to do is try to collapse the pocket and keep him in there.
All you got to do. Yeah, I mean, would it be disappointing? I don't think so. I think, from a standpoint of the success that they've had, I'm leaning more towards them being able to be successful from the defensive line part. I feel like, they'll be okay. But if they don't, I don't think it'll be disappointing as long as the secondary plays well. I mean, because think about it. In order for it to work correctly, you've got to get pressure, right? You got to get that pressure because we talked about Drake London, we talked about Kyle Pitts, we talked about Bijan. Getting that pressure helps those guys out.
Gotta ask this. There's been question marks. People talking about Nick Bolton high coverage. What did you see from him last week? Do you think he improved? He led the team in tackles last week, so he's good as a linebacker, but
they've been living with this bend but don't break attitude. I think you understand that Kyle Pitts is gonna get his, right? I think if that's the case, you just make somebody else beat you. If Trent is able to take care of what he has to take care of, then I think it'll be fine.
Defensive backfield. I mean, they've been playing like that.
Solid.
Again, last week they weren't going to let Jamar Chase beat them. The person that gave him trouble, of course, was the tight end Mike Gesicki. So again, that's where, as you mentioned, Kyle Pitts earlier, could have a big evening. I think it was either the second or the third receiver because technically Higgins didn't play last week.
Right.
So what concerns, if you're Steve Spagnuolo with that defensive backfield, are you looking at in tonight's game?
I don't think Jalen Watson has played the best. I don't think Joshua Williams has played the best. I mean, those were two guys that were forced in there, in that I think it was 2023 Super Bowl run. I think those were guys that were kind of forced in there their rookie seasons, and now I feel like they're kind of 22. Yeah, they kind of plateaued. I don't see them right now getting better. I think they're kind of right where they were, and teams are getting better, and I think they're recognizing that. I mean, we saw it seemed like Jalen Watson got targeted a little bit last week with Joe Burrow. They recognize, Jalen Watson, whoever he's on, going to him. I think they have to be better. If I'm Steve Spagnuolo, I'm noticing that, and I feel like they have to be better from that standpoint.
Special teams, have you seen anything? I mean, they're in a dome, more or less, stadium, open air. should be a decent game for Harrison Bucker. Of course, he kicked the game winner 51-yarder last week at Arrowhead. So
you talk to Harrison more than I do. What are your thoughts about him right now?
Oh, he's in the zone, man. Look, we remember the offseason stuff with the commissioners and stuff, and so he knows he expects to hear stuff on the road, versus more so at home. So, but he's a guy. I mean, he's proven to be a game. I mean, he's kicked game winning field goals in the Super Bowl. So, to be quite honest, it doesn't get any bigger, since the Super Bowl. And so I can't see him really having a letdown unless something's wrong with the snap or something like that. I can't see Harrison really being phased at all. Home on the road right now.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think he's in the zone the way he's been the last couple of years. Ever since he got hurt in Arizona and came back and got himself back, he's just been focused on just trying to do his job, which is good because that's what you want to do.
Of course.
Because again, as long as he's doing his job, all the outside noise for the team, they don't care about that stuff.
Of course, I got you.
Yeah. So let's look at the map and see what you think. Let's see the Chiefs get off the field. See, look like they're ready to set in their football, looking at their faces.
Yeah. No smiles for them coming off the field. No smiles at all.
No, none at all. All right, Steve, we are, about a half hour or so away from kickoff. Given, this thought, I guess some more thought that relates to atmosphere and
I think it's gonna be live in here, man. I think that you got a lot of Chiefs fans. As you can see, some of the fans that are on the sideline that are walking by us right now. I think it's gonna be a crazy atmosphere, man. It really is.
All right, now drop your score prediction down. I don't know, Steve, do we have anybody that put scores in or whatever that we
don't?
No? Okay, so again, now let me ask you this. So if the Chiefs win, they move to 3-0, they go out to LA, next week face off against the Cardinals, get a chance to put a little bit more distance between them and second place. What are what's your thought process on these upcoming games for Kansas City?
I mean, this is going to be, you want to go 3-0. You really do. So this is going to be, because you're on a 2-game road trip, right? So you got to make sure that you take care of this one and then let everything else. You talked about the gauntlet of teams that they're going to have to play in the next few weeks. So I think this is going to be, game one for that.
So for Kansas City to win tonight's game, what's your next factor for them? And what must they do to make sure that they come away with the win tonight?
I think the offensive line has to play well. I really do. I think they have to block the patches. They have to make sure that he goes untouched. What about you?
Defensive line, putting the pressure on Kirk Cousins. Again, because he's prone. Kirk has been known to throw interceptions. You just got to get the pressure on him. Again, we've seen what Chris Jones has been able to do. Chris Jones still wants to be that defensive player of the year. This is the type of game tonight that if you're Chris Jones, you can get Sunday Night Football. What biggest thing you have right now? So you have a quarterback who's back stationary. Again, now whether he's inside or outside, if you collapse the pocket, Kirk's not going to be able to run away from it. So even if you don't get the sack, you're causing to run into a teammate's run. And so to me, I think if they do that, they'll put themselves in multiple opportunities for the offense to put points on the board, which is what they need to do. Because again, they're not going to be at full strength, if at all, this season. Maybe without Hollywood Brown and however long they're going to be without Isaiah Pacheco. So whatever the defense can do to put them in great positions where it's forcing third, fourth, and long or whatever, or forcing turnovers to where they can, where they can get things going, I think it will be beneficial for them.
I agree. You got to make sure that you help your offense out. Because we've seen the defense win games this team the past few weeks.
Final thoughts on tonight's matchup. What's your final score, and how do you see it playing out?
I think the Chiefs.
So Now, was you expecting the offensive line with the Travis Smith stuff? I think you mentioned it earlier. So
I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna change it up. I'm gonna go with offensive line.
Okay.
I think because Kelsey has played well.
Do you have an X factor defensively?
I think the opposite Trent McDuffie has to play well.
Okay.
Who's ever on that side?
Where the second?
Yep. Okay. They've got to be the Jalen or Joshua Williams, Shamar Connor. Those guys have to play. Those guys have to play well.
For me, offensively, the X factor is going to be the running back.
Yeah.
Because I've got to see with the absence of Pacheco, how this person still do. We talking about his pass protection. You know what I'm saying? I mean, how much of that playbook does he have? You know, is he able to do? You know, if he's going to be running the football, pass sets and stuff like that. And then P-Ryan. You know, I got to see what it's going to be. So for me, that's the X factor tonight for the Chiefs.
Okay.
Your prediction for touchdown?
I think it's going to be a close one. I think 24-17, 24-20, somewhere like that. I think it's going to be close one. I said that on Monday show.
I thought you had a blow.
No, I said it's going to be.
Okay, 14 points for some reason.
I said it's going to be a close one. You said it was going to be a lot.
Okay. I'm like you. The Chiefs don't really blow things out.
Yeah.
However, though, I just take all the week. Kansas City fans coming to this game, and I just feel like it's going to be Arrowhead South more or less. So, again, for me, if the defense can do what they need to do and put pressure on Kirk Cousins, I think they can go get away with a 10-point win. I'm going to say 27-17 Chiefs.
Okay. I ain't gonna argue with that.
All right, so yeah, the team, you want to thank your sponsor as well? Nostalgia.
My friends over at Dillard's on the Roast. Make sure you go and check them out. Go out there, Dillard's on the Roast, to go holler at them. They'll make sure they'll get you right.
And I've got to say, as always, want to thank Gates Barbecue as well as Todd Soldier and Taylor Soup getting me right for this weekend. Look, I mean, it's been a great weekend for both Steve and I since we've been down here in Atlanta, being able to mingle amongst Chiefs Kingdom and the hospitality that they showed us here in Atlanta and at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Second to none. So I want to thank everyone. Make sure you follow us on social media at Steve Walls KC, at Darren Smith NFL. We'll be back post-game with Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and then we'll also do our post-game show from here on the field, recapping tonight's game. And then, of course, make sure you join us on the Red Hour tomorrow night, 6:30, 7:30, back in Kansas City. Steve, any final words?
Nope, go Chiefs.
All right, so for Steve Walls, I am Darren Smith. Thank you so very much for joining us tonight. We'll see you post-game. This is the pregame cheat sheet. Steve Walls, Darren Smith, live from the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, where the Kansas City Chiefs are getting ready to take on the Atlanta Falcons in just about 25 minutes. Thank you so much for joining us.